Okay, shall we begin?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and good afternoon from Greece. I think that it's afternoon there. My name is Konstantinos, but friends call me Costa, so if you want to ask any questions, I would like to address me like that. It's easier. And I'm going to present you our latest work with Ian Grigg and Mohammed Al-Khameri about the way to build an artificial general intelligence. Even though there's a plethora of meanings and technical terms, I try to keep it short because I want to have as many questions as possible from you. And since this presentation was meant for an academic audience, I try to keep it short. Okay, a bit of terminology here. Let me start the presentation. Okay. There is a disparity in terminology regarding AGI and AI. The definition of intelligence is not properly set because mainly people address the notion highly subjectively. I want to be honest here. My opinion is that there is no intelligence in artificial intelligence. So a more proper term would be, let's say, analysis of information. In this regard, respectively, AGI stands for analysis of general information, or as a friend says, statistics on steroids. Consequently, the aphorism that a large language model presents an AGI, in my opinion, is blatantly wrong. Nevertheless, it's not quite proper to abate the progress of large language models and their contribution to knowledge. They will get better in the future, and they will be probably the way to pinpoint information hidden in the literature that otherwise will be staying hidden forever. Let's not forget that machine learning in IT terminology is nothing more than data compression. Or to put it more eloquently, gathering the highest amount of Shannon entropy of data within the smallest possible Kolmogorov complexity. As such, it should now be evident that there is a ceiling of the machine learning process that can never be exceeded, and that is 100%. I want to think that the whole process of machine learning is like a tank that you can pull up to a certain level, and after that, you cannot put any more information in there. So the information contained in the dataset is being transferred into the model. This signifies something extremely important. There can never be any ASI, which stands for artificial superintelligence. So I'm not expecting a Skynet this year, and you should not. However, since we are talking about the collection of almost all human knowledge, it may be perceived as such by a large majority of the world. There is a way of constructing an AGI, an artificial general intelligence, and that is no other than imitating life. AGIs cannot be based on single agent systems, but rather on a collection of multiple agents, which is what I'm going to present to you here. There is a trick in this. They are all need to work and operate under a common protocol. Work together, each within its specialty levels, but towards a central goal. Humans have goals, and we have agency. Large language models do not have any agency now. And we are based on incentives. A large language model cannot present incentive. So the question is how to program a machine to have incentive. The answer is not easy, since programming an incentive is different from a machine to self-program its own incentive. As Gödel proved, such ventures, as with other problems, like programming consciousness within a machine, are what he called mathematically undecidable problems. Those can never be deterministically answered. Those can only be approximated and not discretely solved. So let's begin with the presentation. There is a lot of terminology and buzzwords here. If you are writing papers, I hope some of you are authoring papers. So let me give you an advice: use buzzwords. Buzzwords are critical for people to get the wow feeling when they look at your manuscript. And if they mean something, all for the better. So the idea of multiple neighborhood cellular automata has a start. The idea started in 1939 by the famous mathematician Stanislav Ulam. In a discussion with John von Neumann, he presented the idea of cellular automata, which the plural is cellular automata, CAs. CAs are mathematical models used to simulate complex systems or processes in several fields, including biology, physics, and chemistry. CAs are employed to analyze phenomena such as the growth of plants, DNA evolution, or embryogenesis. John von Neumann formalized the idea of cellular automata to create a theoretical model for a self-producing machine that it was presented in 1948 in Higson Symposium. Von Neumann's work was motivated by his attempt to understand biological evolution and self-reproduction. This is critical here. If you want to make progress, look at nature. Essentially, a cellular automaton is nothing more than a digital representation of a natural cell. Even though there now exists a systematic study on cellular automata by Stephen Wolfram, one of the first implementations and the most known to date of cellular automaton is called Game of Life, which is created in the early 70s by John Horton Conway. Game of Life is Turing complete, which means that it can simulate any Turing machine. I want to simplify a little bit here. A Turing machine can perform anything a computer can. It is an abstract concept that we need to understand very well in order to go forward. But not only that, Game of Life is not only capable of simulating other things, but it can also capable of simulating and reproducing even itself, like a natural cell. Fast forwarding to 2019, there was a paper by William Gilpin which showed that Game of Life can be used as a convolutional neural network. Usual applications for CNNs are pixel recognition and image processing. Basically, you can put one of these inside an image and it can read from the image and learn from it. But there is also more. The interesting stuff happens when we have multiple of them working together and interacting by themselves. We then have lifelike structures, much like bacterial and microbial life, just like as von Neumann predicted back in 1948. This image is by Ben Crackman and presents the emergent structures of multiple neighborhood cellular automata. What we see here is the interaction of many cellular automata that we put on the same matrix, and they work together and they interact with each other. You can see for yourself that the resemblance of this image with the previous one, it is an E. coli image, which is an E. coli colony, and it is remarkable. E. coli is one of the most famous bacterial that we have inside our bodies. It is a part of our intestinal flora. Now, in AI, we do use some cellular analogies, just like the representation of a natural cell with computational structures like a perceptor. Those can be considered as agents. Since I quote unquote this because agency is something else than agent, but let's keep with this terminology, within this terminology for now, and we will explain that later. So agents, since they are appointed to a specific task, but we need to bring all those agents under a common roof to have the magic happen. Blockchain can be used as a secure platform to store multiple agents, which then can work together in synergy to achieve a certain goal. It's a platform for evolution, communication between agents via payment channels and micropayments. I want to stand a little bit here and explain something more. An agent can be a simple program or a more complex one. So imagine that you have IoT devices, you have AI devices or large language models. All of them can be considered agents in this fashion. This infrastructure, we found out that presents the perfect environment to construct an AGI. Let's now see some reasons on why we should pursue such a venture, why we should choose a blockchain to do that. We have 5 of them. The first one is data integrity. The second is immutability of records. The third one is auditability. The other one is automatic labeling and accessibility to everybody. Data integrity forms since each element is represented by a triple entry accounting record, as Ian Greek invented in 2005. Triple entry accounting is basically have 3 places where the same record is being recorded. It is an extension of double entry accounting, which is very common in economics, and we are using for the past 2,500 years, maybe. And triple entry accounting is the evolution of that. Triple entry accounting is the basis of the blockchain. The third trustless party that keeps your records is the blockchain. Blockchain also provides immutable records. It also provides automatic labeling, and it is important as well. Contrary to the popular belief in the data science industry, there is no unsupervised learning. Every serious result you can now observe is based on supervised dataset. And that is a very expensive process. You need a big team, you need a team that is unbiased, because we have now witnessed that there is a bias within the machine learning process, and that bias comes from the team that certifies if some answer is right or wrong. Finally, we have accessibility for all, and that is very important as well, because we eliminate one big problem, which is called the data siloing problem. That means that each big company, like say Google or Meta or Facebook or Amazon, they keep those big data isolated from everybody else. With blockchain, because it is a public ledger, we have we eliminate this problem. Now, another problem is that agents need to be controlled. But why? The main reason here is that even those agents represent what we now call narrow AI, which is a primary form of AI. We need those agents to work in a controlled environment. And let's find out why. In the book, Machines Behaving Badly by Toby Walsh, it stated that as soon as 2020, we had an implementation and use of a killer drone by the Turkish company STM. The drone is believed to be able to autonomously swarm, identify targets using computer vision and face recognition algorithms, and eliminate targets on the ground by kamikaze attacks. We don't need an AGI to eliminate us. Narrow AI can do that just as effectively. But let's now come back to AGI. Is the creation of an AGI even possible? What are the problems and what are the possibilities of such a technology will create? We have three possible problems. The first one is called the alignment problem. The alignment problem is considered the problem that the AI will not have the same interests with men. Say that you order it to make, let's say, paperclips, and it will start using every available resource to do so, even humans. So we will have a globe full of paperclips and no humans. The second one is loss of control. Loss of control is possible when a mental superiority state is achieved. Even though I don't believe we will ever have one of these, we need to be careful about it. We need a contained environment, and blockchain gives you that. Concentration of power. What that means is that actors with an edge in advanced AI technology could acquire massive power and influence, and they misuse this technology. An auditing process is required. I want to stand a little bit here and state that we now have autonomous large language models. You can have a large language model running in your PC without too much of money, having the edge of technology and have a very good graphic card and all this. Just an ordinary laptop with 4 gigabytes of memory is enough to run a large language model in your PC. So most of them are what we call uncensored. And if you can ask me one thing is that, how do we censor people from doing something? The answer is that we cannot censor people. If people want to use the information, they will do it. So I would say that the best thing and the best case scenario is to have a way to control all AI agents or all AI entities that is out in the world. We have authored another paper that it will be presented next November. It is entitled "A Large Language Model Can Be Controlled via a Triple Entry Accounting Record," which is basically a part of what I am presenting here today. So auditing is required. This is what is important here. AGI also has 3 main advantages. Connecting all humans. Connecting all humans will make sure that nobody is left behind. Whether you are in India or in Greece or in the United States or Russia or in the North Pole for that matter. This needs to be accessible by everybody. The second one is the parallel advancement, and I want to stand here a little bit more. Parallel advancement is essential when we have large language models and AGIs and all these fancy constructions that we created so far. Because the large language models that we have now have several ways of advancing the information that they contain inside. One of the main techniques that we use nowadays is having one AI, let's say ChatGPT-4, train another AI, which is, let's say, a Vicuna model or a LoRa model. So when we have something like that, we have observed that the second model often deteriorates at a much faster level than what we expected. That means that it collects all the wrong information so that the model eventually collapses. I want to stand here and be very, very clear about this. You cannot have AI without humans. We are the source of information. Whenever somebody says to you that AI will steal your job and all this crap, this is absolutely bogus. We are needed, and we need this technology for parallel advancement. Blockchain and AI are the two edges that will move this world to the next level. I want to keep that in your mind and work with this in your mind every day. The third one is assisted governance. It will help humans to achieve better governance, since the AGI will have all the facts and no personal interests like humans do. We do have several parts in our brain. The first one is devoted to our existence. It needs to keep us alive. And this is also the egoistical part of ourselves. So this is a primary instinct when we build a company, when we build a business, when we try to collaborate with somebody else. We always have in our mind, what does this do good to me? We don't care so much about the others. We care about ourselves. So when we have somebody that needs to control, let's say, something very powerful, just like an AGI, this somebody cannot be a human. You need a trustless environment, and this can only be achieved via immutable records and auditability. This is what blockchain is all about. AGI on the blockchain solves the problem and secure the advantages. This is the end of my presentation, but I have left this one for you. In a future where the robots were uprised against humans, the historical data was used for machine learning, and they used pre-modern weaponry. So this is how we managed to get through that. So our paper can be found in the following link. I will also put in the discussion the link for this paper. It is online. It is published in MDPI, together with another one that is called Artificial Intelligence Implementation on the Blockchain. It was published in 2019, and it is one of the most accessed in the world. It is in the top 5% globally, based on Altmetrics. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much, Konstantinos. That was amazing. You covered a lot of points that I had been thinking as well, as discussing with some of the team projects as well here who are with us. I have some questions of my own. I think we will go through them and also discuss some of the projects that are going on right now. So, my first question is, you mentioned that neurons themselves can be treated as agents,
Yes.
right? Yes. So that would essentially create a model where I'll have to dig more into exactly. I think you have said that in the context of the paper, which would have more information in how we can have micro level agents, I guess, as the automata.
Mm-hmm.
And these automata themselves could be then connected, uh, represented on the blockchain or interact. I mean, from what I understand is agents are always off chain and agency is private. And agency is private and they interact or communicate through the blockchain.
Mhm.
right? So the communication is where the micropayment is coming in, and also where the auditing is coming in, because all the interactions between them are recorded, and also the actions that they are taking would be recorded. So that's where our projects are also structured that way. That we had one AI chain project, as I was sharing with you, and one other, I think three projects overall interact together to achieve some kind of a system with the blockchain that we can achieve. One is the AI chain, as I told you, which was a Lang chain model, interacting with micropayments with different agents, agent marketplace you can think of. The other one is this board. That was a project. I mean, we couldn't continue with it. We needed a lot of guidance and support, and probably it would be at the academic level. But I would like to initiate it at some later stage, and that was for structuring or representing the world in a event or environment model. So essentially, any agent needs an environment to be defined of what it is allowed to do, what's not allowed to do, what is the access it has to the environment, and the specification of that environment. So, from my research and the direction I was taking it, is that we need a proper standardization of definitions of the environment. And that environment could be the whole globe. A nation state is inside an environment inside an environment, and there could be even sub environments inside that environment. In fact, every program right now on the computer also runs inside an environment. So it is all environments actually that programs also run upon and interact with. So defining these environments could become a standardized interface for AIs to understand which environment they are in. Once they're able to essentially locate themselves, that okay, they are in this environment and this is the location of this environment inside the broader world of environments that they're in, then a lot of things can happen. So any insights on that is what I require. Is there a standard existing for that, some kind of a representation model for environments? Because then all the agents can then take that as a basis and interact and communicate and take actions based on that. That will give a lot of structure for even doing smart contracts. If we have to do more conditional logics and really instill real world use cases, we will need these environments to be defined much more than specific actions, because they are secondary, they come in as a derivative. And then comes the third part where IoT gets linked. And for that, we had another project called Event Base. And Event Base is a ledger of events, triggers, and actions essentially. So one IoT device can generate a trigger that, okay, this event has happened, it has detected, its sensor has detected. And another IoT device somewhere else in the world can listen to that event in the ledger and then react to it, respond to it essentially with another action. Those are pretty much the three projects we had, which were focused on AI. And one other project we had is an auditing plugin for QuickBooks, which is the most popular auditing software, accounting software, I can say, used across the world. So a plugin that can be made for QuickBooks, which uses the abilities of the triple entry accounting to make some enhancements in efficiency or effectiveness of auditing, that can be applied just as a simple plugin that any business or any accountant, I guess, can integrate. So that's what we were thinking of, making a triple entry ledger, a use case or benefit of it in accounting in some way or auditing. So either accounting software is what we integrated with, or if there is existing software for auditors particularly, then that could be a plugin we target for them. But I haven't got some insights there, so that's another research direction I would need insights on. So, what are your takes on all of this?
Okay, let's start from the standardization, which was the first question. Is it?
Mm.
All right.
Yes.
So the standardization procedure will be will be needed at the next few years. And I expect that two technologies will help a lot into that. And the first one is the integration of IP version 6 with blockchain. And that will form what we now call Web3. And the ability of having a secure platform, a blockchain that controls every transaction, every IP to IP communication is essential in order to have this kind of secure platform to store everything on that. So when you have auditing, you can have any standardization that you need to have. So in my opinion, Web3 is the first step, and the second step is to form a standard that suits your needs. So for communication of AI agents, I expect that not all the communication needs to be online because people need their privacy, but fortunately, we have the ability to have identification of each large language model or AI agent or a neuron or a simple program by just hashing the program and have one hash that is unique and certifies that this program was used. Make sense?
So the program script itself is hashed?
So you have a large language model now, okay? And that is, let's say, 5 gigabytes or 50 gigabytes. If you hash this program, this whole chunk of data, it has a signature. So that signature certifies that this program has an ID, let's say. It's not an ID, but let's call it that. So whenever I am using this program within the Web3, then I will be obliged to use that hash that I use that program. Nobody cares if I use that program or who I am, but that record is significant because in case of malice, somebody, let's say I want to use that program to make a bad deed to you, to steal from you, or to do bad for you, then this can be recorded, and this will prevent me from doing so. Okay?
Essentially, we are enforcing integrity. We are having a data supply chain verification that can happen that, okay, if this was the script hash, or this was the program, the LLM, the hash representing that entire model. So if the same data again goes as input to that model, then the same output should come again from it.
Yes. Yes.
So we can check and verify through the whole entire supply chain backwards of where the problem was, if we have to.
Let me be more specific. We have now large language models that are free to use, let's say, and uncensored, as we call it. You can check GPT for all, for instance, or several other open source communities are using this kind of large language models, which basically independent researchers took Llama or some other model, and what they did was they trained it according to their needs in order to be uncensored. So let's say if somebody wants to build drugs or want to make a bomb or whatever, it is able to do that by just typing the proper words inside that prompt. So the main problem here is that those cannot be contained. But when you are a researcher and you are doing the machine learning process and you're going to put that online, then this can also be identified. Whenever you have IP version 6 and you have also a public key that certifies that that particular chunk of data was downloaded, then you automatically identified that you used that program at least once. So if you make, let's say, something bad to some other person and that other person sues you, then everybody can see that you used that large language model to do something bad to them. So this is also covering the second question of yours, which is the event recording. So event recording can occur into what we call a secure internet. Let's say that every IoT or every AI model or every computer essentially or every phone has a unique key that identifies it within this world. So all of those events are going to be recorded in the Web3 blockchain. It needs to be recorded there because it is not only event recording essentially, but it is also information that we can use in order to train other models. And I told you in my presentation that there will be a parallel processing and progressing of humanity and AI at some point. This is the way how we do it. So we do that because if you think about it, every micropayment represents a part of our truth. This is what blockchain is all about. This is the truth of humanity, the truth of society. We cannot fake data that it is on the blockchain because first, you paid for it. Second, it is immutable. Somebody will look it up and say, oh, what did Costa did today? What did he purchase? And they will find out that there was a coffee purchased in my area. Maybe he cannot identify myself, but imagine that happening for the whole of India. So imagine the information on how many bottles of water were consumed, or how many coffees were consumed, or how much energy it was produced, or how much garbage it was produced. So this will be a revolution on logistics and in economy, because the main problem here is that we cannot predict with high accuracy what will happen in the next day. But if you have all this information on a certain place that is called blockchain, then all this data is gold for AI. And because every day new information will be inferred into this platform, then all this data can be used to train a model a little bit better than the previous day. Okay?
That's a lot of data unlocked, and that requires tremendous amount of transaction capacity to be recording everything worth recording on the blockchain.
This is why we want PSV to succeed, because there is no other blockchain project that is able to handle all these transactions. And I
That's
want
like a requirement. There is no other way then.
Yes, yes. I don't think that there is another project that is able to sustain this kind of transactions that we are talking about. I want to think that this will be happening for every single human on the globe.
Yes, so pretty much every human every second will be producing a transaction
Mhm.
of the event that's happening, recording it. But now the question also comes when you also mentioned about privacy. Let's say we can even maintain privacy while having things recorded in some confidential way on the ledger. But then there's also a requirement that every packet need not be on the ledger though, right? Every IPv6 packet would not actually be leaving a trace or making a transaction on the ledger. Or is that the case that every single packet itself will be also be a Bitcoin packet and be leaving a trace on the blockchain?
Mhm. So I told you also that I am also authoring another paper for this purpose on how can we do this kind of stuff, and it will be available in the next few days. I am going to email it to you so that you can share with the community there. But I cannot share right now because it is under the peer review process. So you will have to be a little bit patient on this. Basically, the main idea was already explained. You have to have what we call the Chatham House rule. The Chatham House rule is basically that whoever participates in a game doesn't have to reveal their identity. Okay, so if you have a hash of yourself and you participate with that hash, this also certifies your pseudonymity. And I am not saying anonymity because it is not anonymous. Nothing is anonymous. It is pseudonymous. That means that you have a different name that at some point when you do malice, when you do something bad, somebody else will be able to find you and be able to identify who you are. So it is to your best concern not to do bad things to other people, because at a certain point when you are going to the judge, let's say, and you say, okay, this guy stole money from me, and he did that at that point, and he used that technology and blah blah blah, and you can find that all the transaction will lead back to you. So it is a paper trail. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we are building a better world by basically containing ourselves from our bad parts, let's say. I told you that we are very egoistic and we only think of our own good. So we need to have a system that will certify that we can do our own good, but we can also cannot do bad things to others. Okay. So the third one was about a plugin and triple entry records that you are
Yes.
going to develop for web browsing.
Yes, it's for either, so we were thinking either for accounting softwares, a plugin that can
Mhm.
enable, let's say, reconciliation is what we were thinking. That reconciliation using automatic reconciliation because of the triple entry blockchain could enable less work on the part of accountants to be doing. So, is that the correct direction when we are thinking the maximum impact could be, or is there something else also you would like to add there?
Okay, if I understand correctly, you need a plugin to record some kind of transactions, right?
Yes,
Okay, so this plugin needs to also contain a part that is a wallet of sorts.
yes,
Okay, so you have a plugin that is a wallet and it is able to record in triple entry accounting fashion all the transactions that this wallet does. So basically, this is a very good idea. I think that it is a brilliant idea, actually, because if you have something like that, you can also have a paper trail of what you did. And at the same time, this can only be personified for yourself. So right now, if you check, all our data are being sold for advertising in Google and Facebook and everybody else. So something like that will probably be the platform that will revolutionize um, advertisement, so to speak.
hmm.
So if you make this work, and I think it is not very difficult to do something like that, and you are integrate that into, let's say, an open source uh, an open source browser, not not some of the others, but
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe you can do that even in Google Chrome, because such a system will probably be able to provide its owner also some kind of revenue. Now that I think about it, so maybe you can build an alternative advertising system here based on that plugin. I don't know, probably.
Yeah, well, in that, either the advertisement system, or if it is valuable for businesses themselves, or let's say auditors to increase their efficiency, then the revenue can come from them. Want because it's it's increasing their efficiency, so they are willing to pay to increase their efficiency.
Yeah, yeah. I think that that would be a brilliant idea. I would focus on that.
Hmm. Okay, I will connect with you probably for more uh, clarity on how that can be structured.
Yes,
When
let's
you,
talk about this.
yes, so that's all from my side. Anyone else has something to ask? They can go ahead.
Let me share one more paper with you.
Oh, I had one more question. There was this automatic labeling that you mentioned. This automatic labeling, how is that achieved? Are we incentivizing people to be labeling? Are we crowdsourcing labeling, or is that the structure of input itself is where we are controlling that it's automatically labeled?
Okay, I'm so glad you asked. So each product right now has a QR code or a barcode, okay?
Hmm.
So this is a kind of information that you need to have inside the dataset. So each time that you want, let's say, to buy potato chips or coffee or something, it has this QR number that you can scan and you make the payment, okay?
Hmm.
So this will be certified that you did the purchase and this data is going to be recorded onto the blockchain. So this is automatically also recording the tokenized process, the tokenization process, as we call in machine learning. So you know a coffee who was bought for this kind of money in that location. Okay, so all this is a token. Imagine that having to do with everything that you purchase inside the supermarket or when you go to buy an airplane ticket or whatever. So all this information without your name, and this is very important, you have your public key, which is basically the wallet address that you have, right? And nobody knows who you are. And essentially, everybody will have this kind of information when they are using their money. And I want to go one step further and state that I don't expect that primarily BSV can be used as cash. It can, but people want, let's say, some kind of security from the government. So the best case scenario for using the money that we're going to use for such a process will probably be via a stablecoin. So
Stablecoin, yeah.
I am aware of the STAS protocol. If you ever heard of that, that is
Yes, yes,
being
of
used.
course. We are also essentially having a focus of cash being stable coins itself and have been working that direction.
Okay, so we have also a project that is based on STAS protocol, and it is about implementing a stablecoin on STAS protocol, and it is used by a company called Centi, which is in Switzerland, and it is
Yes,
based
yes.
on a digital form of Swiss franc. Okay, so all this information uh, I isolate you from yourself when you're doing a transaction. It is just like when you're doing a transaction now with your phone or your credit card. Nobody knows in the coffee shop who you are. You just did a transaction and there is only a bank number. It's not your real name. You understand what I'm talking about? So
Hmm.
the information, though, when you keep it on a public ledger, it is accessible to everybody. So you are eliminating the data siloing problem. Right now, most of the transactions are not being used for anything. Imagine that you have all this data for today, for tomorrow, or the next day, or for years to come. If you have all this data, then you can train AI algorithms so that they can predict with high accuracy what will happen the next day.
So the tokenized form of representation is there on the ledger, and the one who has the relevant information for that token is able to automatically label and
Yes,
structure it.
yes, yes,
Okay. Hmm. And at the same time, it preserves privacy. The one who doesn't has the relevant information is not able to label it. That's also
yes.
bringing me to the other question of the metadata uh, being valuable on its own. And metadata itself, does it fit in with this labeling itself? Or would that also be, yeah, that's actually another project we had, which was called BSV data, of making data tokens, essentially, which is something, if you have heard of Ocean Protocol,
Yes.
um, that has also made a data marketplace. And in that also data tokens are created essentially. So what we were thinking is creating a token for containing data, containerizing data essentially, and transferring data and accessing that data, managing that data. So the data is containerized as a token, and that can be managed in that manner. Um, but then we were thinking, what about metadata in that, and having some needing some insights on how that should be done.
Well, let me put it this way. Um, that in machine learning, I have also stated that in the introduction of this presentation, that machine learning process within a data set is basically gathering the biggest amount of Shannon entropy, okay, of the data set inside uh, uh, inside a file, let's say, with the smallest possible Kolmogorov complexity. I want to explain this because it sounds like gibberish. So you know what Shannon entropy is, right? Is the amount of information that we have within a file, okay? So let's say that we have the information, tomorrow it's going to rain, okay? That has a specific amount of Shannon entropy. That is the information contained within. And the information contained within is that tomorrow it's going to rain. So let's put that into a file, okay? And let's make another file now that says that tomorrow is going to rain, tomorrow is going to rain, tomorrow is going to rain. Basically 3 times what the first file contained. So the 2 files have the same Kolmogorov complexity because basically they contain the same information, okay?
Mhm.
So if you have, let's say, a for next loop and the information contained with the first file, you make the second file pretty easily, okay? So the complexity between the 2 files are practically the same because the information contained is the same. So I wanted to explain this because in machine learning, we don't care what exactly the data is inside. We can do a forensic job, let's say, by applying a convolutional neural network on the data set, or let's say of doing a feed-forward process, or any other technique that we have in order to do machine learning within the data set. So the big data that is contained right now within the internet, which is a big scrap of what the large language model were trained on, basically is uncertified because people lie. This is not the truth of ourselves. This is something that somebody put on the internet. I can pretend I could be a dog or a cat in the internet, and nobody cares. Within Web3 blockchain-based internet, as we put it, this cannot be done. This will be your truth because it will contain your daily transactions, it will contain your daily consume of goods, and everything else. And that can be pseudonymous. That means that we don't need your identity to do that. Just a number will do, and we don't care. But for the AI, that is gold, because the data set is now self-supervised. It is self-supervised data set, which is something that if you ask anybody who is doing artificial intelligence research right now, they will say, oh, how can we make that? Because we're paying a lot of money. You know how OpenAI trained their model? They had about 500 people that were judging if every answer that were taking from the people, because they let it open, you know. What they did, they put the model out there, Chat GPT-3, and everybody was using it for free. Remember that period? So all the feedback they got from the people had also two hands. One was the down hand, that was not a good answer, and that was the good answer. So when the down hand was there, all the team got into a high alert and say, oh, what did it wrong? Let's see. And let's say that the team was biased against a political figure. Let's say that they hated Trump or they loved Kamala Harris, for instance, right? So the bias of the team went into the AI model. And that is very, very natural, because it is information that came from the people. You understand that? In order to have an unbiased AI model, everybody needs to be there. Everybody needs to participate. It is the highest form of democracy of data.
Everyone's input must come.
Yes, yes.
Yes, that's similar to another endeavor we had. That was my dream project. I will talk about that later. It was called Counterpoints, for having a open marketplace of opinions where everyone's opinions come in as a protocol ledger. That was actually my thesis, the final year thesis in my BTech. Okay, I'll leave the stage to anyone else who wants to ask. Rose, I think, wanted to ask something. Is that true, Rose?
Yeah, actually, I wanted like at that time, I wanted to ask, but like, okay, so like, what's the exact difference between AGI and AI? Like, why is AI confined to do, some of the tasks? Why it can't be like able to do any kind of task? Why is it being confined to do particular tasks?
If I understand correctly, you want to explain what AGI stands for?
No, like, like, why is it AI being trained to do confined tasks? Like you explained in the earlier example, you gave a Turkish example in which like the AI was trained to attack people, right? Like in that 2020 Turkish book, you gave an example earlier.
Your
In your
voice is
slides.
your voice is coming a little bit jittering. Can you please write the question for me?
Hello, is my voice now audible?
I think yes, much better now.
Okay. Actually, like I wanted to ask like why AI is being confined to do only particular task. Why it can't do like why it can't be like AGI? Why it can't do any of the task, like you explained in the earlier example, you gave an Turkish example of 2020 book that what if AI is being able to attack us, right? What if it becomes more powerful than us?
Okay,
You explained earlier in your slide.
okay. You asking if an AI can be more powerful than us?
Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, no. Uh, Constas. So
Yeah,
she's essentially asking narrow AI, why does it even exist? Why
Yeah.
can't
narrow.
why isn't AI already AGI?
Um, I'm not sure I understand the question. Can you please repeat, because there is a bit of jittering in your voice?
Yeah, essentially narrow AI. And I think the answer, Rose, is also this that AI specializes just like humans do. We have different knowledge domains, and not one human can do everything, nor are they knowledgeable about everything. Just like that, different AIs get trained for specific sectors or specific domains, and that's where they specialize in. So that's what narrow is. Essentially, she's asking, what is narrow AI?
No,
What is that?
like my question is, how is it possible that AI can become more powerful than humans?
Okay,
Like
I don't
humans
Okay.
only
think.
trained AI.
Okay. Now I got it. So I don't think that AI can be more powerful than humans, because right now what we have is a program that compressed all the human knowledge, right? And we have
Yeah.
all this knowledge within a data file, okay? And that is the whole human knowledge, okay? So when we ask a prompt and say, tell me who was Albert Einstein, what it does, it goes from the input inside a million of hidden layers, and it puts a vector inside those layers and find all the relevant information that we need, okay? So if you think about it, if Albert Einstein was there, which is something that it doesn't know, then this program will not be able to give you an answer. So in that sense, the information that is contained within the AI cannot exceed what we people gave it to learn from. So how can an AI invent new knowledge? So this is the very critical question into uh, if we ever have an AGI, let's say, or ASI, which is basically the artificial superintelligence, which exceeds humans in all levels. So many people, even though if you ask them right now, say, oh, I think that it understands me. We can have a perfect discussion with a large language model and it will understand me. It basically does what it does. It's basically doing a statistical analysis and finds the most proper word that will follow the previous one so that it can make sense to what it says to you. In essence, it does not present cognitive, let's say, abilities as an AI. So, and this is very easy to understand. Let me find uh, something that will probably give you an answer with a picture. Okay, give me 1 second. There's a diagram that is able to understand, to give you a full understanding what I'm talking about. I tweeted that a while ago. I found it. Okay. Here it is. So if you open that,
Yeah.
you can understand that this is what we call AI intelligence, and the y axis is how intelligent AI has become throughout the years, right? So
Yeah.
the first one is the ant, a small ant. The second one is the bird. The third one is a chimp. And we are now at the level of a dumb human. Okay? Everybody thinks that we will exceed that, and there will be this moment of technological singularity that will probably, we will have a Skynet invading us all. The main question is how. I think that what will happen is that there will be a ceiling where Einstein now stands, maybe a little bit more, that all the compression of human knowledge will find that ceiling, and that will not be able to be surpassed. Maybe I'm wrong, but this is what I understand from what I know, from what I have studied, because we cannot create new information from existing information without understanding. AI does not understand right now, and this is very critical to know. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so we will not have
Yeah.
Skynet. I don't think we will have a Skynet anytime soon. My guess in that paper that we wrote is the best way that we can make an AGI is to represent human life. So how are we able to think? We have 86 billion of neurons inside our head, right? Each of them is one agent. In reality, if you ask a neuroscientist, they cannot really explain how a human has consciousness. So how do you know that I am real and I'm not a depiction of your, let's say, fantasy now? How do you think that Kostas is now real and he is in Greece and he's talking to me? So in that paper that was posted in the very beginning, we argue that we need to identify how this is happening and in a human level, which is a very big and hard question. This is why it's called the hard question of consciousness. So we don't know how we are sentient, to put it mildly. We don't know how we are conscious. We only know that we are. And the way that we found that it was interesting was through a Greek word of consciousness, which is syneidesis, which is basically together we know. If you think about it, we exist because others around us exist and can certify our existence. How we can represent that within a machine? We can have this representation within a common protocol, many agents that talk to each other, and have a representation of a human brain. This is the way to do it. But I don't think that will happen anytime soon. We don't have the protocol. We have the protocol, but it is very narrow right now. BSV has what, 1 trillion transactions per day. We are talking about, I don't know, I think it's 100 million per day. 100 million per day, isn't that, Ron? Anyway, I think that we are far, far away from that, maybe 50 years or maybe 100 years. And we need to certify that this is happening properly, that we can control that, and we need to certify that it cannot control us. There will be a tango, let's say, that we dance with it and it will dance with us. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you for your question.
Yes, go on, Kavin.
Hi everyone, my question is about how blockchain can replace cybersecurity, and then what what are the popular projects you come across the combinations of AI and blockchain?
Okay. Your question, if I understand correctly, is about blockchain and cybersecurity.
I'm asking, will blockchain replace cybersecurity? Will blockchain replaces cybersecurity? I'm just asking.
I cannot listen very well. Sorry, my connection is really, really bad today. Can you please repeat, because I cannot listen?
Will blockchain replaces cybersecurity job?
Will blockchain
Replaces cybersecurity?
replace cybersecurity? No, no, it will not. It will be the ledger where everything will be recorded. I think that cybersecurity will still be there. There will be still people that have to maintain, let's say, other people from trying to do bad things. We are extremely efficient in doing bad things, especially when we need to make profit for us. So blockchain will not eliminate the job of cybersecurity. I think that it will make the job of hackers a little bit harder. So let me put it this way. There was an ancient myth in ancient Greece that you can read in Plato. It is the myth of the king of Gygia. It's called the myth of the ring of Gyges. So Gyges was a person that found a golden ring with a rock on the top of it. So he understood that when he twisted the rock, it became invisible. Nobody could see him. So the question that Plato poses to Glaucon is what this person will be able to do when they knew that they could get away with it. And the answer is the worst that they could do. So in the myth, Gyges, who was a shepherd, killed his king, and he married his wife. And he became himself the king of Gygia. So blockchain is basically removing the invisibility, especially from people who are going to do bad things to others, or they have, let's say, their own interests above the interests of others. And you know, in today's world, these people are the ones with the most of power, because the most profitable is to steal from each other or to scam them and get their money and become more rich yourself. Blockchain will do exactly that. It will make this process much more difficult. It will not eliminate it. No, I don't think that in a long run, it will eliminate all the bad things in the world. I do think that it is a very good step forward, though. Probably if we have an AI that is built on top of the blockchain, together, it will be able to control all of the humanity and the bad deeds that everybody else is going to make. But this is a big if. It is a very theoretical proposition. I cannot really certify if something like that will happen. Thank you for your question.
And also have another question about what are the projects you have come across more either a combination of both blockchain and AI?
What projects can be a combination of blockchain and AI?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want you to think that the blockchain as a medium is nothing more than, let's say, a secure hard disk somewhere in the cloud. Okay. Let's say that AWS or Amazon services and whatever has a huge blockchain right there, and everything is being certified and recorded, and everything is following the same protocol. So, in essence, this question is the same with what can we do with the current infrastructure. The current infrastructure, you can build AI for, let's say, predicting the weather. You can build an AI for predicting the logistics of the next day, just like I told you. But the data is not sufficient because they are not 100% true. So if you have a blockchain and everything is being recorded there, then the microtransactions, which basically are the information that you need, will going to be inside the same file, and the same file will be used from a vast majority of AIs that will use this file in order to extract the information that they want. All right? So there are plenty of ideas of what we can do with this technology. But I think that the most important one will have to do with what people are using every day. The second one would probably be a better social media platform, which is now something that we lack. Imagine that the most advanced AI now doesn't belong to OpenAI or Microsoft. It belongs to Meta. And a very few people know this because Meta owns the private information of all the participants that they participate inside the Facebook platform. So every single typing that you ever did, every private discussion that you ever did, whatever you posted online, it will represent a virtual you. So this is only for Meta, and you have agreed to that because it offers it for you for free. Basically, the proposition that when something is free, then you are the product is 100% correct, because they are using our own data for their own use. Practically, an AI trained on your data from Facebook, let's say, or Instagram, or Twitter, or whatever. The AI has a model that has about 50,000 data points that represent yourself. So in essence, this AI knows you better than yourself. Make sense? So
Yes.
I think that this will be one of the most important advancements that blockchain will have to offer. But I am more focused in more broad things. I think that we need a better system for transactions so that people cannot steal from each other. I think that one of the most important things that we have when we have something like that, it will be able to return the funds when somebody steals from us. Because somebody comes into my house and say, I have the rent here and I will kill you if you don't give me your private keys to your wallet. And now I don't have any money and he has all the money. If I go to the judge and say, look, I am Kostas, that was my wallet, and I can prove it that it was mine, and this is what blockchain offers. It offers the proof of identity, if you think about it. And it's a very hot topic now with Craig having all this legal battle and all this. It's not I signed the keys and I am Satoshi. It is a whole lot infrastructure that proves your identity. So, in my opinion, this is one other important factor that blockchain will be able to solve within the next years. I think that the identity of people needs to be certified by people who can certify this identity. And blockchain with not your keys, not your coins, is total bullshit. I'm sorry for my French.
And also, will Web 2 turns to Web 3 soon, or it will take some time?
Can you repeat, please?
Will Web 2 turns to Web 3, And how much time it will take to change?
I cannot listen now. I'm sorry.
Will Web 2 changes to Web 3? It will say take some time. Do you have any prediction about it?
About security, you said?
No, I'm just asking. Will Web 2 changes to Web 3 in what time? In in a duration of what period? I'm just asking.
Wikipedia?
No, he's asking whether Web 2 will entirely turn or transition into Web 3 soon.
Oh, Web3. Yes. Okay. Sorry. My sound is awful. I'm very sorry. I cannot listen to you guys. So yes, Web3. Web3 will be initiated when we have the ability to replace internet transactions with the blockchain. So when that will happen, we are working on it. I think that IP version 6 and the ability of storing within an IP version 6 address a public and a private key is critical, because something that it is not very well known is that every IP version 6 address has the ability to store a public and a private key. So this is mind-blowing if you think about it, because every single device that you have can have an IP address, and it can also have a public key address. So it can receive and send payments. So this will only be happening via microtransactions. And this is what we are trying to do now. I think that the most important thing that we need to be focusing right now is how to integrate the blockchain within the internet. And this will happen slowly, but I expect to be extremely fast at the long run. Because imagine right now that we are mostly using IP versions 4, all right? And you can, from India, come into my PC and hack me and pretend that you are me and everything else. So if my PC has its private key and its public key, then it's much more difficult to have man-in-the-middle attack, let's say. Basically, you cannot. It is because it's peer-to-peer, from private key to private key, and that is going to be encrypted. So this is very critical to understand. And this will happen for every single device out there. Every IoT that you can find, in whether it can measure, let's say, the temperature or the barometric pressure or the consumption of your car, or the GPS sensor that you have into your phone, or your heart rate, everything will be secured. And nobody can steal this data except you want it to. Except you give your consent. Oh, it is okay, you can use my heart rate data to find out if my heart, if I'm bound to die from a heart attack. This is on your own. You need to consent to that. Right now, nobody asks. You wear a smartwatch and it goes to Apple or Huawei or whatever. Nobody asks you. Everything is shared. Nobody asks you. It has a huge thing that you say, I consent, and all your data is going to them. What they are doing with that? Who knows? So the first thing is that you need to understand that we need to control our data, our personal data. This can only be done with blockchain and internet. So how fast this will be, I cannot predict. I think that it will be slowly at the very beginning, but people will start to understand the difference of having something like that, which is much better than what they have now, and they will transform their transaction to there. So the transition, I think it's going to be at least at the very beginning, which is what we are trying to do now. I mean, I think that there are a couple of startups that are going to build applications on Web3. Maybe you can initiate one as well and see what is going to be for you. But I also think that the transactions need to go much bigger. I think 100 million that we are now needs to go to at least, let's say, 1 billion per day, and have, let's say, a much broader technical ability in order to build something that will cover the whole world. But let's start from a small city or a small country, and then we will move forward. I think that it's going to be within the next 3 to 5 years, probably. The AI technology will help in doing that, especially if people understand that what I told you from the beginning, that the perfect data set is the one that you can certify that it's true, and you basically saving yourself a whole lot of money of gathering people together and judging if this is a bottle of water or this is a bottle of lemonade or something. Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, moving on. I think Siddharth Durga has a question. Siddharth, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to check. I think there are huge banks and the various trading companies are inv do invest a lot of money in terms of back-end settlements, right? In T+2 settlements or T+3 settlements. And how can this blockchain be used so that these settlements happen seamlessly without wasting any time or these huge resources out there? And are there anyone doing such sort of projects as of now? And what is the stand of these banks in using such technology as of today?
Okay, that's a very nice question, and I think that there are some players that are focused on this kind of technology. Yes, I think that we first need to have a proof of concept of having a digital currency, for instance, right? So if we have one and we know for a fact that this works and this works nicely, then I think that most of the people in the world will prefer to having something like that instead of money that they cannot control. For instance, if you go to the United States today, there are news bulletins every day that they say there are 6 billion missing from the money that was sent in Ukraine. I mean, how 6 billion can be missing? Those are very good questions, you know, and if you have something that it is auditable, it is 100% visible, and it is 100% immutable, then nobody will be able to change that information. Nobody will be able to say, I sent 6 billion to Ukraine and they never went there. Somebody's scamming somebody. And if you have the paper trail, then you can certainly find out what is wrong. Another big problem with the current situation in the banks is that the banks are not doing their job as they were meant to, because many of them have invented products, and the money is not a product. It is something that you need to exchange with one another instead of barter. Instead of, let's say, I'm coming to India and say, I will give you a hen and you will give me a lettuce, for instance, or a kilo of apples. People need to have sound money in order to have a sound society. And this, I think, was never, even once, happened in the world. Maybe in the very first years that we started existing. as humans. I once gave a lecture in the Money Museum in Zurich, and I was able to witness the very first money tokens. You know what they were? A tooth from a tiger, because it was very, very hard to kill a tiger back in the day. Okay, so I think that blockchain technology changes this. We are making a better money system. So if we have a better money system, then we can build upon it, and then we can build on every technology that you can imagine. AI will be standing there, our society, our social media, our businesses will be staying there, our automation will stay there. Imagine now that you have, let's say, a flying taxi, and it comes from your house and takes you to your job. And somebody hacks that taxi and brings it down because they hate you, or you are their rival in their business. This will not be happening with blockchain. It will be impossible.
Thank you. Thank you. Understood.
Thank you.
So anyone else in this meeting has any questions? Yes, Siddhartha, go ahead.
Yeah, one last question. Just wanted to understand that a lot of governments have implemented CBDC, introduced CBDC recently, from US, China to UAE. But is this just because to compete with cryptocurrency, or else what is the usage of this going forward? Is this just a parallel system they're trying to run? Just wanted to know your thoughts.
Okay, that's a very good question. So I will answer via my latest information on this subject. Last December, I was in Alexandria in Egypt, and we discussed a little bit about CBDCs with some colleagues of mine. And basically, nobody has the technology to implement a CBDC in terms of a blockchain as a platform that everything sits on. So my guess is that nobody wants to build a CBDC that it is able to be auditable, and it is 100% secure, let's say. This drives me back to the previous question, that do really the banks want a proper central bank digital currency? And the answer is probably not, because they brought the whole world into this mess that we are now. Yes. And I think they don't want to. So this is not the first time that they are trying to do so, for what it's worth. Ian Grigg, who is a very good friend of mine, told me how they were trying to tackle this technology in the very beginning of 2000, because, you know, we're talking about blockchain and triple empty accounting. This is technology that came from the beginning of 2000. I mean, it's already 20 years old. And I may be an old guy, I'm 54 now, but most of you are young guys, and maybe some of you were not even born back then. So all this time, we had the perfect environment into building a better system. Why didn't we do it so far? And the answer is very simple. Because those who control the money, they didn't want to. Because it is much more profitable to steal from each other and make more money from themselves than having a proper system and be one of everybody else. Okay? So I really hope this technology will replace this system. I am a bit skeptical on how this will happen. And I am also a little bit, laughing about it, because when I first learned about it in 2010, 2011, and I met with Greg, I said, my biggest challenge, I would say that nobody wants this kind of system. So why did you create it? So it is a good experiment, let's say. I think that right now we are on the verge of a very big change, because if you check the news every day, there is a lot of information about economic collapse and how the system is rigged, and all the inflation is going far beyond what we can control and all that things. Maybe what it needs to be done is the system to go down so that everybody agrees that we need a better system. Okay, so will that happen? I don't know. I surely hope so, because I want a better world for you and my kid, who is maybe at your age right now.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for your thoughts.
Thank you for your question.
All right, then. I guess we have had a wonderful time with you, Konstinos. So
Kostas.
it's Konstinos.
Co-stars. Easy.
Kostas.
Yes.
Okay. It's been a wonderful evening here in India, and I wish you a good day ahead. So yes, if nobody
Thank
has
you.
any questions, I guess we are good to conclude.
Thank you for your time and for the invitation. It was a real pleasure for me, and I am always happy to talk to such smart guys like you. I really think that India will be able to make the difference in this technology. I have told all my colleagues about it, because you are brilliant people. One of my heroes in science is Ramanujan, and I think that many Ramanujans will be among you. Maybe you are one of them here, and I am very honored to talk to one of you or all of you. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Kostas. Looking forward. I'm so glad to have you. The insights were just amazing, and I think we'll be able to make something really good.
Bye bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Kostas.
much
Thank
for
you, Naveen.
joining,
Thank you all.
everyone.
Thank you all.